Hello, the species value nature system. Hello, lost leech. Here, this is about why we have sexes, the value of the sex in relationship to the Trinity. The sexes are simultaneous natures, as simultaneous nature's relationship to itself, as an identity nature. Now, see, each of the physical sequence natures of our body, each cell, a trinity, cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall, semi natures, sharing a complete nature, which is an identity nature. Even an identity nature shares a hierarchical relationship to itself within as a semi nature. Each complete body of identity of value is simultaneously a semi nature relationship to the complete identity of existence / space. And as a quality of diffusion, which is a simultaneous connection of five semi natures of itself into and as the value of the forever nature value that is gaining the value of temporary space nature. It is only going to gain it, or it forces it from here to gain somewhere else. With us, for there's negative value nature relationship to positive value nature's evolution somewhere else. Lethe of Hades, for space nature transfer. So what is nature? Nature is identity, forever nature. Identity is a forever nature. Each complete body of the identity of value in space nature, even all identities of value progression, finite, grouped, and together. They are bonded by a value nature relationship that is positive or is negative in relationship to where that slash reveals invisible but discernible quality of diffusion. So this is an identity is a simultaneous nature, as it's a sequence nature. It's a forever nature. That's why the past truth never goes away as value. It gains. This is in relationship to a tactically ulterior than value nature systems, market positions that were the identity of what we're in now. Fake size because we could have on paper nations don't like each other, but the species was originally it's already does like each other. It already knows that would in other words that's all. What's being maintained are negotiations, natures of negotiators, there and here, breaching method maintained, keeping negative agreements, negative value nature compromises, criminal insidious nature roles, per what the devil set up, an organized crime method. I'm not Lord, not before, not criminal. This is against women and men distinctly and non-distinctly at the same time. This is against our founders, the slander of black and white, which was per a crime method entrenched here since before our founders' birth, and as one that was simultaneously in engineering using tactically denatured relationship to nature. It means before cars they built these home styles. If you mention building other, my resource for that is from a note in CCSU. They hurt you and your whole family. In other words, the nature of things that were behind witch trials. That's not behind, in other words, drugs weren't behind that. They still have, in other words, the organized crime method that was entrenched here before our founders not allowed, was they'll try to hurt anyone who protracts correlation because everyone's reliant upon pseudo positive natures of identities of value nature system, which is a value. So too, even nature value, in other words, even not, conditioned by a nature of value nature progression as an identity that is the discernment of what is positive or negative. And even though we are semi the nature of existence, we're like memory. We're like complete memory. Where our memory is semi memory to us, this is the being shown. In other words, there's semi natures of the complete identity of existence are coming in, and they're forcing more volume of consciousness that is temporary positive to be further positive or negative in relationship to itself, which is an identity that is constantly connected here, but indirectly. So there's 5 semi natures. We come into this. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel of Anthony Wall. And this is showing how the science of sharing identity, the predicate, is value as a positive relationship to our nature, inherently, actively, and progressively. Same time, the science of sharing this identity as a complete body of value, conceived that way. In other words, that's why the predicate act is simultaneously, inherently, actively, and progressively negative our nature's relationship to itself. The criminal insidiousness nature of my lawyer, please phone. So we're talking about the sexes in the species. A manifest trinity value, because the complete identity of space is also that to all parts of itself, but only one way. It has a forever nature. There are only physical bodies of nature because of forever nature as the bond of the complete identity of space and as the bond of the complete identity of existence simultaneously as the order to all finite in relationship to and as the value of it, the complete identity of existence, which is on to and as the value of all sequences, natures of the body, individually, grouped, together, and progressively. Identity is a progressive value, as a quality of diffusion, life, positive or negative. So we are sexes as value, not just for kids, to see the identity of the 4 directions and to understand that and how it's a trinity nature overall and here. That's why we have leverage, ground. We have ground, solid ground, overall up. We have overall right to left, left to right, things growing up. Identities of life beyond us, right to left and left to right. And this is so we can see that the identity of existence is greater than the identity of space, but completely as it, simultaneously, completely as a semi-nature of itself like that. And then that's bonded by where and how the Trinity that was before there was matter, how that Trinity stays overall a non-distinct relationship to all parts of itself. And that's the difference between what causes positive or negative value nature progressions as more identity nature that is positive to individual, to both sexes, into the nature what is positive to and has the value of a species at once, which is a correlation means, because correlation nature, all parts of itself nature, is a trinity, an inherent, an active, and a progressive volume. And an identity that they share together, an identity of progression that is only perfectly going to gain. And it's going to force more and more of our nature as identity, forever nature, as more and more positive made, here closer to the greatest inherent nature of volume of itself, of the semi-nature of its complete nature, or it's going to force it away from here, Lethe of Hades. Force, space, nature, transfer, nature, being a relationship itself to itself. Take space from self. Who displease the pendulum of outer space proceeds so long till we have a negative value nature relationship to nature. So we have to value ground, like with water, and what is active, invisible, but still discernible, fact, treatment, nature value, but also simultaneously maintain positive and praying to be like thinking ahead too, because we have to be positive to the value, the progression's value. And this is where science needs prayer, which is different and non-distinct in relationship to how the religions are about, how they have to be a counter criminal insidious nature because of the distinct and non-distinct way modern nations are being maintained as as an identity of negative value nature progression together, consciously maintaining the outcome be that we have naive convictions of fact treatment nature quality at the trade center level agreement with the only realized quality of fact treatment nature, suit and tie nations encounters to it that don't understand because the value of of the sciences that were revealed before the species value bond and value of that was criminally re-engineered to be perpetually played. So we're in a semi-ancient trap. Therefore, I rap. Yes, religion, return. Let's try. Wait, let's try religion. Gain, arise, be trial tribes. So sexes are simultaneous nature to understand how the simultaneous nature, the forever nature. See, these are things it is always at once and noting exceptions and not exploiting any exceptions. And this is how you see it, using ratiocination, using it to see the difference between pseudo ratiocination and ratiocination as what causes positive or negative value nature progressions. But this being through a system ulterior, tactically ulterior than these ones left negotiating to. And free speech was not allowed to demonstrate that because each age of fact treatment nature was measured to jobs, not just to measure that, but to measure correlation nature. Because each of those jobs, to have sensibilities that ignore that just blind respect to expert lean, which is what each modern nation is doing, states and areas inclusion. This criminal insidious nature you can't legalize. They don't understand that. How it can stay measured and exploited in relationship to database relationships. And nature's raised needing to justify convictions with physical delusions, criminal foreign influences. And nature's as criminal insidious nature, needing to hurt and to hide from and to offensively hurt correlation nature's free speech, to steal it. We have identity theft crime brackets, areas and stage, a method to it that keeps everyone. They say, oh, just be what you want to be. There's no jobs out there for it. You know what I'm saying? They even allow it, free speech. If you try to report, in other words, we have Connecticut News stealing people to fake words, and they're trying to quantify. They're being directed to quantify what a whole bunch of people tell them, but they can't put that on paper because all those people are being there's like a lot of people with networks and stuff like that where we have systems. The nature of policing and the nature of reactions to everything ignored and being exploited originally, it's still being exploited per what everyone exploiting it doesn't understand, but per needs inherited too. This completely as a fact treatment nature racket, knowing that the database relationships and the campus relationships were value already in ancient times, knowing that criminally re-engineered value nature relationship to it, nature self of campus marcias, defenses of roles with that would be the cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and justifications of that, and then defenses of that maintained, needed, and then used as weapons against everybody else, because those are fact treatment nature styles that can't defend themselves, and from correlation natures, truth with sequence, truth with care, truth with protracted correlation, free speech. See, you can't even defend the physical delusions that have only been allowed spoken regarding politics in relationship to this too, because they're raised not to think. In other words, overall, each age of fact treatment nature is in a trap. On and off campuses. So we need free speech, but the WFSB, Fox CT, Hartford Current, New Britain Herald, NBC CT, they were raised as victim predators for people lying to them, recorded and confessed involve other natures of crime. That's why they steal my speech, because they steal my identity, fake conversations with them. Same thing with my parents. They admit to rushing people to hide their recorded crime rolls with a Fianza family before that too. So they're sequence shifting natures. They're involved with crimes with agencies recorded and confessed with courts putting fake arrests into databases with child sex offenders and ones online, interbranch, intercampuses too. Still further with the principal sex offender school. Call me no fool. Please fix the news. Don't make it personal too. That's recorded too. They try to pretend, oh, you say something like that. Fix the mistake. They also, when they block you from Facebook, then you're blocked from, you're extorted in the online world. They have sensibilities that are sequence shifting roles like this, because they're intercity, blocking what was interbranch, maintain criminally foreign influence, not just through for those agreements, but those agreements on paper maintain what needs to appreciate and to exploit what keeps each area in the state interbranch needing to hide live progressions off the record too. Facilitated to this, maintained, cultivated this way. And the branches propagated originally and still criminally foreign influence, fact treatment nature. Every time they say, oh, I have the obligation to charge any law I hear are broken, they're doing that consciously with physical delusions, but also consciously hiding lies, hiding criminality rules there, because they have recorded raising criminally foreign influence branches, criminally foreign influence areas maintained, fact treatment nature positions in relationship to databases with each of the departments, because they maintain a nature as an overall criminal insidious nature that they knew we would have to hide live progression then with areas. Then they knew that would be within as everyone as value as criminal in Caesar's nature, pseudo positive, incapable of defending free speech, because we lost on these fronts to an entrenched crime method, not just to entrenched physical enemies. See, we have physical delusions about what an enemy is. So each modern nation has this maintained in other words, they're here, right through fake sides. Just because the surface of North Korea and South Korea are enemies and or with us. In other words, this is a species unity being maintained, sabotaged. But in other words, with those naval agreements, there are other nations' police and naval agreements with natures of industries that you can't defend and us at the same time. Because you can't afford free speech then, because what's behind the streams going into court each day are crime methods against each age of fact sheet in nature, intercampus consciously. These are recorded. See, we have to be able to report the predators with the kids, though. See, but they're not allowing this because this is coming through their relationships with police that are trained to rely on doctors, that are trained to rely on judges, that are trained to rely on politicians' information, other private, what they hear. That's exploited. That was set up to stay exploited. They're just too naive not to be. Every modern nation at once. They built us to not be able to do anything but blame the real causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures on others, and ourselves. Natures like wrongdoers, like criminal and seditious nature, like predicate acts. So the predicate act and predicate are simultaneously value nature relationship to itself, nature, the identity of existence. It's a complete nature relationship to our identity nature, a complete nature to all the semi-natures of our body, as the semi-nature relationship to its perfect value progression, which is five natures of identity that are beyond the semi-nature that we're in. We only gain the value of that by being a positive relationship to it or by being a negative relationship to it. And this is where physics comes into value. But in relationship to what was before, as the value of physics and as the value of its progression, value at once. So to see this, it's a simultaneous nature. See, we have women's rights forsaken. So the right is not to work when the jobs aren't equal. In other words, what if they have only jobs, the good paying jobs where you could sew or something like that? I'm not saying that. I'm saying more women like to sew than men. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I didn't think about a better example. But I'm saying these are not conditions conducive to even walk outside for little girls, where they have living standards built with physical delusions because of the nature was the soils, the waters, their relationship to us and to nature's self, which evolves or de-evolves, was tactically, criminally denatured. That's why Native Americans are Oz, like trying to tell us we're going to destroy the place. We're destroying the place. They repeat. That's why their rights are forced to negotiate, and and not, we have to focus now. We have to be on the same page. We have to use native dreams as guides. There, I say on YouTube, I don't know, I can't find the guy, or where he said that. Which is important because they have to say so much, and you have to have one point. But then that was like one of the first YouTube videos I watched. It was a Native American chief saying that wants us to admit what was done to them, was being done to them, and wants us to read their dreams, Native American dreams. That's how you beat Native, which is what? Nature's relationship to itself that is also positive. Yes, releasing trade. Because that the different agenda grouped individually and overall, the value of that, in other words, nations, states, areas, and nations, semi-controllable, sciences, in relationship to internation. The original nature of it was criminally re-engineered. So there are proofs English was only preserved through England, and or only partially revealed there, if that was the actual, which, this is nature of sciences working together before, even semi-ancient England. And they were nothing like what was engineered to maintain suit and tie nations counters to it, all needing to blame the causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures on other things, on others, not self. Religion sent us out, return, this means. The way is clear, it means appear. Yes, here. Mom, did you go?